Gabe, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is to approve our agenda.
Move.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. This time we'll open the meeting up for any public comment. Anyone like to address the Brown County Commission this morning on any topic that isn't on our agenda? In the room, out there online, or on the phone? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on. First up, Rachel Kipley, Fair Manager, open bids for electricians for campground upgrades. Good morning.
Morning.
Did you get some quotes?
It looks like we've got 1, 2, 4.
Nice.
Yeah. Notice is hereby given that sealed bids will be received at the Chamber of the Brown County Board of Commissioners at the Brown County Courthouse Annex, 25 Market Street, Suite 1, hour of 8:45 on January 24th, and at said place and time. All bids will be publicly open, read, and considered by the Brown County Board of Commissioners for wiring 45 campsites in Primitive A campground and wiring of 96 campsites in Primitive C campground according to code to include 45 single pedestals for Primitive A, 44 doubles, and 8 singles for Primitive C, as per code. So it looks like bid number 1 is Carlin Electric. So what we had them do is bid parts and pedestals, then labor, excise tax, and then what the total for the whole job would be. And if you remember, this is the one that we were gonna do over 2 years, but then talking to Northern Electric, they didn't care if we did it all in one huge project. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing, trying to get a little bit of deal on doing more pedestals at once. So for parts and pedestals is $101,017.62. Labor, $23,682.50, and the excise tax, $2,545.12, for a total of $127,245.24. And if you remember, we're asking folks to prepay that $1,000 per spot, and you're looking at 141 spots. So on something like that, hopefully everything is below 141,000, because then we know the prepayment would pay for the costs, and that's just electrical, not water. Second one is Miller Electric. And parts and pedestals, $291,750.15. Labor, $65,500. Excise tax, $7,291.47. So the total, Miller Electric, $364,541.47. And they are out of Ethan. Then we got KEI.
Where they are.
Aberdeen, Jim Cram, who that is. Parts and pedestals, $87,057 flat. Labor, $26,350 flat. Excise tax, $2,314.64. Total for all parts, pedestals, labor, and tax, $115,721.64. And then we have Ephraimson Electric, I believe is here with us. Parts and pedestals would be $105,530 flat. Labor, $49,800. Excise tax, $3,170.29. And the total for all parts, pedestals, labor, and tax, $158,500.29. So I guess, I don't know if we can just put it off for a few minutes, like I do our other fair stuff, and then I'll take them out and just kind of look at them. Or if you want to defer it a whole week, either way would be fine. I think we can look at them here in a few minutes and just take action today, or...
If you want to review them and come back in and give us a recommendation, I'm fine with that.
Sounds good.
That way we can keep the project moving forward.
Sounds great.
All right?
All right, so the other things I think I had on the agenda were open bid, the youth camp rates. So I just needed a couple tweaks. There was some confusion on the one I had for your organizational meeting. Just talking with Dave in the auditor's office, because I'm the one that sends out the leases, but he's the one that collects. And so there's just kind of been a little confusion, and so we wanted to make this clear as we could about the folks that rent the facility out there. So basically, all we did was the language below group rates where it says if you're over 30 people, that's when the individual additional rates apply. We just tweaked that language a little bit. So the top part is if you're there less than, like 24 hours or less, and it's only one night, some people will come just for the day, for a reunion, then these daily rates apply. The group rates are if you're there more than one night. Any questions on that?
Makes sense.
Otherwise, if you would think it's all right, then I would ask you to maybe pass that.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Williams to approve these group, or daily rates and group rates for the youth camp. Second by Gage. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, and then I think I have a fair contract on there for you later. Otherwise, if you guys are going into exec, I have something for contracts, but I can do that whenever it's best for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up we have Stu Swenson and Jeff Kipley, Fair Foundation members, with a memorandum of understanding. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll start with sending this around.
I think it was in the packet. Wasn't it?
Yes, it was,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
It was in the packet, I reviewed this morning.
Did you get the
Good.
financial packet?
That we did.
No. There you go. Now we all have one.
When do you want?
Yeah, the foundation has been up and running now for quite a few months. We picked a number, we started with 3 of us on the foundation. We picked a number of what we'd like to raise for money for the year. We ended up 3.5 times higher than what we picked for a number. So we have some really generous people here in Brown County that donated heavily to this. One thing before I forget it, we meet the first Wednesday of every month. If you're ever available or you want to come to one of our meetings, more than welcome. It's held over at Sutton's office over there by the North.
Kipley.
Kipley, excuse me. It's held over there at their office or whatever at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're more than welcome. We've already started one project for the year, and that's done. A small project. I don't have a lot to say. I was hoping you guys had some questions about the foundation.
The main reason we came in today is to get a memorandum of understanding signed. We want to be out in the public with this and open with the commission. Every fair board meeting, we give a presentation or a report to the fair board. 3 of the 10-person board that we currently have are fair board members. Dwayne is on the board as well. We would like to always have a commission liaison. Dwayne is more than that because he is a dues-paying member, so he is full voting rights within there. And if Dwayne would ever want to get off, somebody else wants to get on, we'd reach the same hand out. If somebody's paying their rights, they can vote. Like I said, we raised about $61,000 or $67,000 this year total. We did that through a variety of ways. We ran a 5K at the fair. We had a drawing out at the fair for a couple kids tractors, sold benches that we then donated to the fair. We are currently trying to sell coupon books for next year's fair, and those are $10. Of course, we have our dues that we've had paid to us. And then the big deal is that we ran the play set sponsorship. Play set probably wasn't the biggest need out at the fair, but it was one that will hopefully garner attention to the foundation. Something that we felt we could raise the money for in a year, so that we could get something built out at the fair that people will recognize and see, oh, there's the Brown County Fair Foundation helping out here. So that's where the play set came in. The needs are great at the fair, and we want to be just a nonprofit hand to help the county and the fair, and that's why we're here again, is just to be out in the open. We don't want anybody to think that we're trying to do anything fishy or in the dark, so, you know, if the fair wants a yearly or quarterly financial update, or the commission wants a yearly or quarterly financial update, we can do that. We did put $10,000 of this 31 into what we're gonna call our endowment fund. Of that 10,000, we will never spend more than the interest in a year, and we hope to keep adding to that. But, you know, we'd ideally like to get that to $500,000 or better, but it's gonna take a while to do so. So that's where we're at. We're open for any questions that you guys might have.
Just one more thing that I want to add to what Jeff and Stu have already said. Another function or an event that's been planned by the foundation is coming up on March 25th. They're going to be having a Hall of Fame induction that night. The Hall of Fame, obviously, this organization is new, so the Hall of Fame is new. But what they're going to do is recognize the 1986 Fair Board, because they were the ones that were instrumental in creating the ticket program and really jump-started the fair and got it to where we are today. And so they want to recognize those fair board members and give them a plaque and honor them, and it'll be a night to remember at the Shrine, Yelda Shrine. Tickets are available for, I think, $25 a person, or $200 if you want to sponsor a table of 8. But that's just another event to give everybody a chance to come in and listen to what was going through their heads when they had the foresight to make the fair what it is today. So, great group of people on the foundation board.
We had Lyle Padal actually come to our last meeting. He was the president of the 86 Fair Board. And just to hear some of the stories and the craziness that was going on, you know, at that time there was no fair manager, so it was 100% volunteer. And trying to deal with the monkeys in particular was interesting. We could have sat there for an hour, I think, and just heard stories for miles. So it'll be a great event. And of course, it's a fundraising event for us, so we will have some silent auction items and a couple live auction items there as well. So we would really like to get the word out with that.
That's March 25th?
March 25th, yes. I think the memorandum of understanding is a great tool so that everybody understands the differentiation between the foundation and the fair board and the county, so that everything is kept separate. And I just look at this as an excellent opportunity. We know there's a lot of people, both in the past, current, and going forward, that love the Brown County Fair. This gives them an opportunity to donate to help the fair continue and the fairgrounds make some critical improvements that we all know are necessary out there. So we think the more the word of mouth on this gets out, the more interest there'll be and the more donations that'll come in. So great organization. And Stu is the one that was instrumental in this has been talked about for a lot of years, as long as I've been around. And Stu finally took the bull by the horns this last year and jump-started it again and got the 501c3 status applied for and approved, and so kudos to Stu for doing this. Appreciate that.
And somebody's jump-started me, so me and Dwayne had a conversation at 21 Fair, I think it was, and that's how this got jump-started again. This is the second time I've tried to do this, and we finished it this time.
Yep. No, thank you. We appreciate it.
I'm pleased and excited to see you guys come through this. It's a lot of work, but it's gonna show an awful lot of fruit for your labors. So appreciate everything that you do, especially this on top of things.
Did anybody have any questions on the memorandum of understanding? Any,
We have a chance for the legal to review it, or we're good on it?
did Ross look this over?
MOU?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went through it.
Okay.
Pretty standard fare, but yeah, I didn't see anything either.
No problem with it?
Check.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Weiss. Second. Second by Feldheim to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Brown County Fair Foundation and Brown County. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Gentlemen.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Dirk Rogers, Highway Superintendent, set bid dates for asphalt materials, rental equipment, road oil, gravel materials, and a couple other items.
Yeah, howdy.
Morning,
No
Dirk.
double bevel.
No double bevel cutting edges. Okay, I wanna put this over here. When I go to leave and forget it, everyone in the room, please remind me that my coffee mug's right there.
That's a pretty one, I like it.
I know. It's bright yellow and I'll still lose it. I was gonna suggest that we did the, thing up on 14 first, but I was expecting more people in here, so it really doesn't
Okay.
matter. Most of these folks would be here anyway. So we'll talk about,
They've been heard from.
first thing I'll talk about is, okay, the way that's listed is the department update first, right?
Bid dates first.
Set
Okay.
bid dates for asphalt materials and
Okay,
equipment.
I don't care when it is, Lynn, whatever the shortest time between today and when we can get them advertised.
Publishing,
Get the chair.
Couldn't see her.
14th.
Drew has better posture than
Yeah,
Piker
here,
did.
February 14th?
Go to the 21st.
Yeah, agree.
February 21st.
Because I think the 14th we're bidding a different project that day. I think that paving up at Fredericks that day.
21st, move.
All right, we have a motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage, set February 21st as the bid opening date. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right,
Okay, so, got those all set?
right away for web water.
Oh, crap. I didn't bring it up. I got a little distracted by the, I tell you what, while you're still in session, I can...
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I didn't look at it.
You said it in before Thursday.
Well, we have to.
You're okay with that? You're probably okay with it?
I would imagine I'm okay with it. I rarely do who's it for?
Web water,
Oh, yeah. I would recommend approval then.
okay.
I looked at it, move.
Motion by Weiss. Second. Second by Feldheim to approve the right of way for web water. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I won't make that mistake again. I apologize.
He covers you again.
Yeah. It's a team it's a team effort
That's
here.
right.
Okay, now what?
Department update.
Okay. The Elm Lake project up there, the dirt project, we're gonna have a pre-con on Monday or Tuesday. We haven't got it hammered out yet. We had hoped they'd have got in there this fall, but we didn't. So it'll start right away in the spring. It's not gonna be a long, involved deal, so I would hope by the middle of the summer, it'll be functioning. I've had a few conversations with the landowners up there about some fences and what their expectations are, and, you know, we let it out to, Webster Scale and, between Game and Fish and Governor's Office of Economic Development, they're paying for the project, so other than, I mean, I'll have some time in it, but I wanna keep track of what's going on, so.
School and public lands impacted by this project at all?
You know, I don't know about the internal
Okay.
discussions with that.
Okay, I didn't know if any of it went across their property or not.
No, it doesn't go across their
Okay.
property, but they're, you know, they're involved. I cited the governor's office and them, but, school and public lands is involved, you know,
Sure.
some with money and some with, facilitation and pushing paper, I guess.
Okay.
We did get it opened up, Doug, so I hopefully everybody can have a safe and enjoyable fishing experience this weekend. They were right behind us, we're trying to get in there to pre-fish, so. And I know
A little
we're,
motivation.
yeah, and we're laughing about that, it's that we just haven't had to do it for a couple of years, you know? I mean, it's something that generally, if it's, like Doug said last week, if it's 15 feet deep, I mean, we're not gonna, but if you can make a trip or two in there with a snow blower and they can make it in, then great. In addition to that, the Sand Lake Bridge project, I'm still trying to move it along. The federal government doesn't have a real smooth mechanism to convey property and easements, and we're kind of stumbling through that, and we have been. And we got it energized last week, so I'm hoping we can get at least a notice to proceed from them. I'm gonna screw this up, but there's multiple ways that we can satisfy what we're trying to do, is get permission to have our bridge sitting there, right? Because we need a little wider stance than what we have now. So, we've done this with them before. This one is more of a certainty, but it takes forever. The other ones can be done quicker, but you gotta wait until it's completely run through the process. So this is like a right-of-way adjustment, and it'll take a long time, but hopefully if we can get all the boxes checked here in the next few weeks, we'll get a notice to proceed, and then we'll restart the bridge process, and hopefully get it bid before the year's out on that one.
Okay.
We're working on the Jim River berm, despite the last time someone was in my office on that topic. Wasn't the prettiest, wasn't Dirk's best day, but, we're up there doing some riprap, and I generally defer to Kendall because, you know, as opposed to doing this section or doing this section, because he knows where it blows out, he knows what happens, and he knows the impacts of each blowout, you know? So, what we're doing up there might not fit into like everybody's scope, but we're trying to do the immediate weak areas over by where we made the investment in the gates and that stuff, and I think it's a good place to target it. Doing it mostly with, concrete. We're not crushing concrete or to make gravel this year. We've got a pretty good pile yet, but in lieu of that, we're using the concrete that people have delivered us to take it up there and put it on the berm, and we should be done with that here in a couple days.
And that's material we already have. So.
Yeah, it's the trucking cost is what it is, so,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, I told Rachel to put a big orange X on it, but we're gonna try to take down a building out at the fairgrounds in the next couple weeks.
Make sure you know which one it is.
Yeah. So. But anyway, they cleaned it out, and they gotta get, utilities unhooked, and it's something that they wanna, it's not something that was used probably to its potential. I can tell you which is the building next to the building, you fair folks probably got it's the Special Homemakers Special Building or something, but it's the one that sits right next to the office,
Yep.
along there.
4-H office,
Yes.
Yeah, what is it?
the old 4-H office.
I don't know.
You said put a big X on it.
Yeah, a big X. And then the last thing is, this isn't gonna impact, I'm not asking for more money, but as you guys all know, equipment and steel and parts and all that stuff's been, you know, kind of a crapshoot at best lately. So I got on the list for Mack trucks like 2 years ago, and we've been on the list, and we're now, moved to the point where we have a big build spot. So we've got 3 spots reserved. I just don't know when the spots are coming up. It's gonna be later in the year. So we've ordered 2 semis and a plow truck, and then, you know, I'll bring, at some point, I'll come back in and tell you what we're gonna cycle out, or what we'll do with the stuff it's replacing, but, you know, we'll just figure it out. They're gonna run about $150,000 a piece, or vaguely, and so it'll be $450,000, I don't even know, like I said, I'm gonna have to move a few chess pieces around just because I don't wanna pass up the availability and go, okay, and then we're sitting here in 2 more years and actually have a problem. We're nowhere near being in a crisis by any means, but we are getting on the tail end of, you know, we're squeezing all we can out of
The
what
days
we
that you
got.
order something, you just wait 60, 90 days, they're long gone for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, exactly. So, except John Deere blades, they can.
Pump them up?
Yeah, they
Hammer those
apparently.
out.
Yep, so,
The order is working.
okay, that's all I got for my stuff. You guys have any non-Highway 13, Highway 14 intersection topics that you wanna talk about before we move into that one?
Anything for Dirk before we move on? Okay. We will move on then to Brown County 14 engine discussion.
So, we all know what we talked about last week, and I apologize for again not having, I didn't even bring the damn right away up here, so my handouts are really awesome for this meeting too. But, so we kinda know what we discussed last week, and there were some, you know, various concerns, and then you saw everybody saw the letter, I sent one, and then there was a forwarded email from Dwayne. A lot of these things are, you know, they're covering the same kind of topic, it's the same neck of the woods and all that kind of stuff, and, kinda gives you an idea, I guess, of what they're seeing out there. So, did more research than I wanted to, and then I had some people, actually, this was the least contentious thing I've run into in a while, because I had some very reasonable conversations with people that would feel one way or the other on both sides of this. You know, and as you can see in the letter, at the end of the day, this isn't a Jake break sign conversation, it's a larger discussion about safety, and actually, it's a larger, let me get esoteric for a minute, but it's a discussion about everybody kinda has to work together here, because when I started in 2000, Fairgrounds Road was the county's, you know, and eventually there got to be enough schools and enough houses and enough stuff, and the way the traffic moved, that didn't make sense anymore, so we got rid of that. And the town how the town continues to grow with the same population, I don't know, but it does. I mean, the north side of town is pushed out. Anybody that's got Google Earth, go home and click on the historic photos, and you can just sit and look at.
Yep.
And Prairie Wood's been up there a long time, you know, that was done a long time ago when it was out in the country. But the fact of the matter is, we're pushing out that direction. We're pushing out to the south. Melgard was ours when I started, you know, and now the beef plant's the one that we hear about now. So, we're dealing with just evolution. These aren't things, it isn't like the soybean plant, right? One day there's the no soybean plant, and then 6 months later there's a soybean plant. What's happening up here is way more organic, I guess, and part of it is tied to the soybean plant to some extent, but most of what we're talking about up there has just been the evolution of us, just the town's growing that way and pushing the traffic out. Now, on top of that, I try not to ever say we don't have money. I really like to talk about what we do with the good things we do. I don't want to sit around and bitch that we don't have money. Everybody knows that, whatever. But a fact about that is that we have to do things like let the DOT put a detour up there in order to get it paved. I mean, that was $1.5 million that the county got out of that. That would've had to come from something else, and it's easy to stand by Aberdeen and look at what we done and go, well, what difference would it make? Well, it's the same argument about milling roads. If we don't do this over here isn't gonna look like it does right now, because we're trying to balance it all out. So unfortunately, for the people that originally put their development out there in the country, in order to pave and keep it paved and have it be nice, we kinda gotta sell our soul a little bit and use it as a detour, which evolves into, everybody knows it's an easy way around town now, and you end up with trucks up there, and we haven't called it a dedicated truck route, but that's what happens. Which is also why I thought we should work something out with the state, because those trucks are gonna be up there whether we called it a detour or not. They're gonna come around that way, so you gotta get the money and get the road fixed. In addition to that, we changed the stop signs around. I mean, we've done a lot of things to promote that you should come up here. But at the same time, we're trying to, I mean, how many more houses have come up even, we're not even talking Kirkwood, I'm talking further east along there, and so, thankfully Scott's made some good efforts and has made it a priority about trying to put in service roads on, or, you know, frontage roads on developments and limited approaches and all that kind of stuff. So, this isn't just about the sign, it's not even just about safety, we're trying to address how, dealing with expansion. Now, people down in Lincoln County are looking at it and laughing, going, geez, you guys can't figure this out, when they got tens of thousands of people living on gravel roads right south of Sioux Falls, and they're dealing with that, you know. You know, we haven't had to, we have positive things happening here, we have positive growth happening here, but it's not, I mean, how often do we actually run into something that is actually expansion into, you know, a residential area or whatever, so blah, 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 I could sit here forever and ramble on about that. So,
You got the spotlight shined on it.
Yeah.
What do you wanna do?
Yeah, exactly. So, but my point in that long dissertation there is there's more going on here than just hearing a Jake break and being out on, you know what I mean? It's almost a bigger picture deal. But having said that, there are a few things, a lot of them come from the letters and from some phone calls, other communications I have that I think are reasonable. One of the concerns that Commissioner Gage brought up was that it targets, you know, the way it's set up was, and target's a strong word, whatever the hell you wanna call it, but it's geared towards controlling noise coming from one segment of the traveling public, right? Well, I went back and looked at our ordinance again that we wrote like 4 years ago because I couldn't recall it. The whole damn ordinance is specifically designed to target compression brakes, muffled, whatever you want to call it. Did you read it? I mean, Ross would be proud. There's so much lawyer crap in that ordinance. But what I'm saying, in lieu of being able to set up a way to control the decibels and monitor the decibels and have all that and try to have some unenforceable law out there, the way that our Jake brake ordinance reads, it's specific to that type of brakes, and it doesn't account for Harleys, it doesn't account for anything else. So I'm not discounting, and I have an appreciation for what you're saying. The problem is, our Jake brake ordinance, and not the problem, but our Jake brake ordinance is specific. It's not, I mean, if you wanted to call it discriminatory against trucks, the whole thing, that's the only thing that ordinance even addresses. It doesn't, so that's just kind of how that ordinance is, unless we were gonna go with the state's ordinance, which isn't enforceable. Now, how enforceable the Jake brake one is, I don't know, but if you're sitting out there in the zone and a guy hits a Jake brake, you know, you gotta have enforcement. I'm not even gonna talk about enforcement, that's a different thing, but
From a practical standpoint, if you're driving a semi and you do it 3 or 4 times, somebody in the neighborhood's gonna know. There's enough identifying marks or signage on the side of the truck that somebody's gonna get a phone call.
Eventually,
And
yeah.
say, hey, please stop doing that because it's signed here to not do that. I mean, that's literally what you're likely to wind up with enforcement, and that's what you're trying to do to try and get everybody to cohabitate in that region together. And the volume of traffic has gone up, and it should.
right, and the percentage of trucks has gone up.
Right, and soybean plant or not, I mean, that's a regional destination, an area of the destination. But, you know, rightly so, the increase in yields that we've had in the ag community, which we have to do to keep up with things, is, what, 4, 5, 6-fold what it was 10 years ago? Easily.
The trucks are that big, I know.
Yeah, I mean, you're not running to town with a 2-ton
No.
truck, you know, to go to the elevator anymore. It's semis with pups, and there's a whole fleet of them, and
Yep. So,
anyway.
no, so what my conclusion I'm coming to is, okay, one more thing about a noise, or quiet zones, or noise ordinance, pertain to, the ones that exist in state law pertain specifically to railroad crossings and involving the railroad,
Mhm.
okay? So I called some folks, and we could create our own. There's nothing that keeps us from creating an ordinance other than the look that Ross is giving me right now. But there's nothing that keeps us from creating a noise ordinance that says, you know, completely quiet in this area, but now you're back into, how do you monitor it, at what, you're back to the decibel thing again. Yeah. So, again, we can do it, we can pass an ordinance like, the city of Pierce got one on the truck route, coming down that's in town, and that one doesn't say no Jake brakes, that one says noise ordinance enforced, I believe.
Right.
Go ahead.
If I can ask, you know, because it was suggested in here
Yep.
too, in addition to that, since, you know, and there's more, you know,
Yep.
local traffic, everybody's got more vehicles, cars, you know, you
Yep.
name it, the rest of that stuff, you know, there's a suggestion that, you know, we put a different speed limit
Yes.
for a period of time in there. That probably would contribute to minimizing some of this if you lower the speed limit and people begin to try and comply with
Yep.
that a little bit closer. I mean, you can pretty well assume you put up a speed limit sign, you're be going 15 miles an hour above that, you know, for
Right.
the top end of that. But, you know, from a safety standpoint, if that was part of the application of
Yep.
a solution,
That's part of my recommendation.
that would have more practical
Yep. So,
result.
yeah, as usual, I got off the rails and had people that had to sit and look at like they're listening to me, so I started rambling. But, I'll get to my point, I guess. So what I would suggest is the things that, and these aren't all my deals, but I guess what I'm gonna recommend then is we are going to put no passing zones, there's already one going north. We're gonna do one, I would propose doing one coming from the west, a no passing zone. We have to do a little bit of an evaluation. Can't just go out there and paint it. I have to have some justification for why we're doing it, and I think it's there. A lot of people wanted to say that 14's exactly like 13, well, there's this many approaches and this many approaches. 14, there's road geometry factors, and how the road's shaped on 14 and how the road's shaped on 13, that makes them a little bit different, and it has to do with your escapability in a situation. God, see, look at me go, I'm getting off track here. So I would propose a no passing zone for, it will start on the west side of Prairie Wood, it's not for the whole mile.
Right.
At the west side of Prairie Wood, that first entrance where the horse place is, okay? Up to the intersection, I would propose a no passing zone going 750 feet south on 14, because that's the standard no passing zone coming into a stop intersection.
Sure.
So that wouldn't be anomalous, it wouldn't require any special action. Okay, that's the striping, so that's where the no passing zones I think should go.
Okay.
The speed limits, I think you should go from 55 to 45, 1 mile west there, where it goes up, so where the Ordway Township Road is, it's 1 mile west, go from 55 to 45 right there, and all the way up to the corner. And over on 14, I got a little more trouble over there, but then everybody ever driven around the north side of Compesca on Highway 20, I think this will work. So, starting at RDO right now, that first mile's 45, and that is because of the turning lane we put into the industrial park.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all,
That whips out.
yep, that's the only space from where the railroad tracks ended to where that turn would be. To have enough room in the turning lane, we could only go 45. If you go up to 55, you would've had to have a longer storage area in the turning lane. So that's why the first mile is 45. And then after that, it's 55 all the way up. Originally, I was gonna say, well, you know, the west bypass, the big bypass, it's 4 lanes, divided highway, controlled access, and 45 miles an hour. It's only like a mile and a half though, it's not 3 miles. So, I know that these 2 miles, once you get past the bean plant, pretty much up to, you know, mile and a half or whatever, up to Prairie Wood there.
Nice railroad, or it's a nice racetrack till you get to the railroad track.
Right. The railroad tracks help to control the speed over there a little bit too.
Yeah.
So, at first I was thinking, okay, this is 45, we're not, unless we redesign the road, we're not talking about this mile, because it's gotta be 45 unless we do something with the turning lane. So then I was thinking 45 for the next 2 miles, all the way up.
Ain't happening.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, you guys know how I am when I'm get really support a speed limit. This is a weak-ass recommendation for all 3 miles. I don't think we should do it because I mean, go out and drive 45. And Rachel's sitting over here trying to make sure you don't lower the speed limits too much. Thanks for getting her out at the fairgrounds, that's been helpful. So what I would say though, the last half mile.
We have a good time.
Last half mile, go back to 45. Now, I can be talked out of it, but, so I was thinking, God, that's weird, 45, and then we're gonna have a mile and a half of 55, and then we're gonna go back to 45 until you're past the golf course, and then go back up to 55, okay? Everybody understand what I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
You're saying 45 for one total mile on the north and south side of County 13, or just a half mile on the south
I
side?
have to think that we're gonna talk about the north side. Right now, I'm just talking about a half mile on the south side.
Basically from the track side.
Right, and that's why I bring up Campesca, because I was like, God, that's a bunch of, it's one thing if like when you leave Aberdeen and go over to Groton, everything steps down, and then it all steps back up again.
Right.
Multiple times.
That's what you'd like to do ideally.
Right, so, but to step down, step up, and then go down again, I was like, God. But then I thought about, if you ever come in on Highway 20, you're going 65, you get out there at the first curve by the water tower on the northwest side of Campesca, and you go down to 45, and you drive 45 in front of all the houses, and the minute you get past the houses, it goes back to 55 for another mile, not even a mile, until you get into the
Yep.
curve there, and it goes back to 35.
Right.
So,
And it's interesting that 45 doesn't start till after the curve
yes,
coming in, which
Yeah.
I'm totally amazed for
that
decades.
they don't go around the corner, that you're stopped before you enter, or you're slowed down before you enter that
Right.
curve. Yeah, that's a good point. That thing's slippery too at
Yes,
times.
indeed, I know.
So, I mean,
Yep.
that's just pitching from the hip defense that it's probably not as anomalous as you think. And I'm not as familiar as coming into Madison from the west, but the same thing happens there. You go by Prairie Village and it steps you down and the parks and stuff, and then you go back up to 55 for like a mile, and then it steps
Yep.
you back down. So,
It's not unheard of.
and we can debate that, just let me get through my thing here. So I would say the half mile, the last half mile would go from 55 to 45 there. And I'm open, I guess I probably, where I landed was doing the same thing on the north side. The north-south traffic through there, and I don't have enough data to say this percentage comes south and turns west, you know what I mean? I don't think that's the primary moment, or truck moment that's happening, is coming south and turning west. I'm not saying nobody's doing that, but
If they're coming from the north, it's
they're
likely to
pretty
be through
much
traffic.
going south. So that's the only thing that I like to throw in there and get a little input on is, you know, restricting stuff on 14, which I'm pretty comfortable with the passing zones. But the speed limit thing, that would be something I mean, if you guys got some ideas, otherwise my recommendation would be 45 for a half mile on either side of it. And then, also, a few people were commenting, and when I say a few people, I don't know, might have been you guys, might have been Prairie Wood, might have been a guy at the RNA, I don't know. But I've gotten different comments about, shit, I lost my train of thought, I got thinking about the RNA. I can't remember where I was going with that, but my thing is, the other thing, if you're coming down on doing 55, I don't know if you jake brake to get to 45, or we create another, you know, with the speed changes, every time you got a speed change, you're gonna have potential for, you know, something happening there. Oh, I know where I was going. The comment was made that we put the no passing zone on this side. I already kinda talked a little bit about the road geometry, so the roads aren't exactly alike, but they said there's way more approaches over here, which is kinda surprising. There's only like one or two more on 13 than are on, because part of that reason was because they put some design into it, and they have, you know, two approaches that feed the whole
Right.
development out there.
Right.
If we were able to have done that with everything, you know, your drive home wouldn't be as exciting as it probably is sometimes.
Right.
Take
I
us
got
a lot of years to
something
get
for
there.
Dirk.
Yes.
I don't think your problem's on 14. Number one, I use 14 a lot, I see a lot of trucks on it during harvest time.
Right.
Number one, at 45, you're already slowing down for those railroad tracks. If you go across with a load, you're in for a surprise. So people are already backing off on those railroad tracks. Well, if you back off to 40, 45, you don't get up to 60 again with a load of grain.
Right.
So you're already, you know, most people don't wanna be slowing down to 30 and have to shift to get up to the next mile just to slow down again. So on 14, I think you're gonna create a mess.
Okay.
Because most people that are use 14 are gonna go straight from the south. They're dumping out Ag Tiger, they're going straight north again. They're not going west. Most of your traffic is coming from the west. You got a 281 truck turning lane, making trucks go to the east
Yep.
on 13. That's where your traffic is. And on that particular corner, if you're hauling grain, you're paying attention on 13 and 14, because there's a lot of truck traffic coming into that.
Right.
So I don't think 14's your problem.
Okay.
Just by driving it and loading, number of loads through there,
Okay.
I just don't see it. Now, no passing thing, well, most truckers would decide that you're not gonna pass when there's a high energy corner on 13 or 14. Most truckers are paying attention that they're not willing to pass on that particular spot.
Sure. Like I said, I'm not, we can leave 55 all the way up on 14 then, just leave it like it is.
I mean, we
Right.
can always change if we need to, but I think, you know,
And,
taking a incremental step is a good step in the right direction.
Then I will add the recommendation of the Jake brake sign back in there then. That's up to you guys, but.
Going north and going south before the intersection on 14.
Yep.
Okay.
And just a little background that, thanks to Commissioner Gage grilling me repeatedly all day long for weeks here. I'm just kidding, but we've had a lot of discussions that has helped me as well, because I was trying to figure out the other day, I'm like, okay, well, I'll call the state. What the hell do they do? Do you just automatically approve every request, and their law is different. Theirs is like a speed limit. Doesn't matter if there's a sign or not a sign, this is what the speed limit is. You don't have to be right next to the sign to get pulled over for speeding. And that's what theirs is. Technically, the way I understand it, is if you're just out in BFE somewhere and you, boy, that's a bad anagram to use, but and you hit the Jake brake, in theory, they can pull you over right there. It's a noise ordinance, and you're in violation of it. So theirs is more like a speed limit. It's just there all the time. When you see a sign, it's to remind you that, hey, the speed limit's 65, or hey, we have a noise deal. That caused me to get so confused that I had to go back. I can't remember the way ours was worded, but I didn't think it was like that. Ours is like a weight limit. Here's what you can't do, and you can't do it between these two signs. Ours is real similar to a weight limit. The state's is similar to a speed limit. So, anyway, that's, have we gotten to where we got something we can
Now, 13 coming up to 14,
Yep.
going east, is that speed limit reduced already?
No.
I just was thinking that, you know, I know a lot of trucks slow down when they hit Prairie, because, you know, that corner comes up pretty fast with
Right.
a loader semi.
Just being practical.
You're not buzzing through there, so you may have to move your speed limit sign further back to the west.
Yep.
You know, and I don't know how far you wanna go back, because once you hit Prairie Wood, you're already slowing down for 14.
Sure.
You just need to make it that mile.
Yeah,
The intersection.
we're gonna go a
I
mile.
would think that would be.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your recommendation is to put the Jake brake signs south and north of 13 on 14.
And then leave the speed limit at 55.
Yep, and then lower the speed limit on to 45 on 13 for the mile coming up to 14. And
Add the.
no passing zone.
Yep.
Those are your three recommendations.
Yep, the one going south doesn't need any evaluation, because we'll just go 750 feet. The one going west, we'll have to do a little evaluation on, and I'm sure you guys saw the weather next week. We won't be painting any stripes anytime soon,
Mhm.
but we'll get all the
Yep.
legwork put out. I have to look at, we may even be able to put up the signs if we go this direction without the stripes.
Mhm.
Don't hold me to that, I gotta research that. But you must be able to, because if your road's covered with snow, you can't see the stripes. So the signs must have some,
Right.
Yeah, if you wind up with a no passing zone, sign too.
yep. So, and then, leave the speed limit. Okay, we already did 14, yeah, it's really, shouldn't be too bad. And I was giving you crap, but I'm just, it's just been it was a little anomalous, and I don't want you guys ever to not bring something up because you're worried about, blindsiding me, because I'll get blindsided on simple stuff, it doesn't matter. But, to talk about it, like we said, and like you said, with putting a light on it and stuff, or not specifically, but bringing some sunshine to the topic. So
Now we gotta stop.
Yeah, now we're, whoa, stop, just a minute.
Next we'll have a roundabout.
Yeah, now that I'm on board for, let's put one of those in. So, that's
They
where.
really work.
They do. Those are my recommendations. I don't know if we've crafted a motion out of this or not, but those are the things that I think we should do. And, like I said, if you wanna debate the Jake brake sign some more, but I think in lieu of switching the speed limit around a bunch of times, maybe that's a reasonable compromise.
Scott, do you have a question?
So from RDO corner going north to the railroad tracks intersection there,
No change.
speed limit's existing 45,
Right.
and then it changes to 55 currently
At 8th Avenue.
Need that.
at 8th Avenue.
Yes.
That goes 55
All the way.
continuous.
The rest
Up
of
to
the way.
North Dakota.
And you're talking about changing that to 45?
No.
No.
Not now.
Okay.
Discussed it, but no, that's not part of the proposal.
13 would be the only one changed to 45, a mile before 14.
Yep.
Right.
It'd be a mile west of 14.
Yep.
And add 2 Jake brake signs on 14, north and south of the intersection.
That was the half a mile north and south of the intersection was the signs?
There'll be a little-
750 feet or
Yeah,
whatever
it'll be
you
a
said.
little, it'll be less than that. The half mile was what I requested for the speed limit, and they shot me down horribly. So,
You're still flying, you just got a couple holes.
Go ahead,
Couple
Mike.
quick things. All right, so the, no passing zone, I actually can
Yes.
get on board with that one. That one I don't actually mind. I think that's a good idea. And I know Doug brought up the fact of a truck trying to pass, but that I do not believe is your problem. You get a lot more of the trucks coming in and out of those stop signs, whether using the Jake brake or the regular brakes, are slowing down ahead of time. You've got cars that are not, so they're bouncing around. You get a lot of this where they're cut off. So, if the only thing I would bring up to be devil's advocate against the no passing zone, which I say, I don't mind that.
right.
You gotta remember that that is a big area for farm equipment coming to town to the east side to get worked on. So you have a lot of ag equipment that is bigger than the lanes. So if you're no passing zone for a mile there coming into Prairie Wood, legally, if it's, whether it's enforced or not is a
Right,
whole other
right.
debate. But legally, they're gonna have to sit behind a combine or four-wheel drive tractor pulling something down there they can't pass at 20 to 25 miles an hour for a mile. Now, you're gonna get a lot of people that are not gonna do that. They're gonna come around. And I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, whether it's obeyed or enforced or not, I don't know if it would be, as far as that. I think actually for the truck portion of it, making it a no passing zone, I think actually helps
Right.
that portion of it.
I agree with you, and fortunately, around here, it's not completely anomalous that you're driving down the road and all of a sudden there's a frickin' grain cart or there's something right in front of you or combine or whatever. But I've seen, you know, people aren't patient, so I agree with you there. But at the same time, I mean, you're talking, if you turn the corner and go north with a combine on 14, nobody's passing you anyway. I mean, it's, I don't know.
Well, you gotta get way over in the ditch.
Right.
I mean, we
You
do.
don't have- you don't have
Most
as much
people will
space.
get over if there's space or it's not like super steep, try to get over and get people around so you're not holding them up. I mean,
Yep.
and obviously that is a no passing straight line going north there already. And that still happens where a lot of ag equipment tries to get over and let people around. And I'm sure that's gonna happen
Right.
on 13 the other direction. It's just, there is that problem that you might, you know, if they don't wanna get over, it's legally you don't have to. I mean,
Right.
so you've gotta remember, those cars are gonna, and that's gonna be,
Well, there's only so much shoulder there too, you don't want to take
well,
the
yeah,
shoulder
but I mean,
off,
on
too.
13, you got a good shoulder. You
Right.
can, I mean, a lot of them can be over far
Right.
enough and still rolling down the road, so, you know,
Yeah.
just so they're aware of that.
Yep. No, I get that, but it's, you know, whether or not they're aware of it, I don't know, but that, we're gonna run into that no matter what, 'cause that's what we do around here, you know, is we move big giant farm equipment.
Well, at least we don't have them run down the interstate.
Yeah.
Well, what started as basically a simple request to put Jake brake signs on 14 to eliminate the noise on 14 has evolved, you know, through a lot of input and very polite and respectful inputs, I might add.
Yeah.
From those people out there. They've been very respectful and brought their ideas to us in a polite and respectful way, and I appreciate that.
Definitely.
But, so what started as a simple request for 2 Jake brake signs has evolved into us looking at the safety factor and in addition to the noise. So I think these three recommendations are a good first step to see if we eliminate some of the noise, address some of the safety issues for those people turning into Prairie-Wood, and I for one think these are good recommendations. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry.
If you were saying something.
Well, I was just gonna throw in about, what we talked about a little bit, is whoever's involved with planning and zoning, we gotta put a little thought into further developments along 13 there. Like I said, I'm not even, trying to puff up Scott, but he puts a lot of effort in trying to come up with some things that, we're kind of backwards engineering a lot of this, come into an area where we already put the road in and now we're trying to make things fit. But I know Happy Homes, I've been contacted about different projects, and when they start pushing up and start wanting to build up around Spurs and going east from there, we just have to pay a lot of attention to that so that we're not just keep replicating the same issue here. You got good access if you build up there, you got a good county road, but other people are using it because they have good access and a good county road too, and.
But you don't get to put houses along the road 100 foot apart and get
But you
an approach for every one of them.
Yes, yeah.
So are you putting a compression,
It's whatever
compression on 13 coming into 14?
13 there's
already one there.
That one's there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe.
It's not doing a lot of good.
No.
Well, that's where I think the speed limit itself is gonna
Yeah.
improve that
Yep.
situation.
And I understand that, but that's not the only sign in the world that's vaguely enforced, and that's not a shot at anybody. I mean, I drove 69 miles an hour all the way up here, met 2 highway patrolmen and a deputy, and
They wait.
yeah.
Yeah, we could put up a 20-foot sound barrier on both sides too.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was wondering what TC was doing with the dome now. Honestly, I thought we could set the dome just over that intersection and cut a couple of, maybe that would control it, because it's like in the cities, they got.
Put a tunnel.
But, rumble, sometimes, whatever, I don't wanna go off, I'm gonna talk about rumble strips quick. Search Honda, like Honda, cars, whatever, and rumble strips, and just look at that, okay? And it's a bunch of stuff you're gonna go, oh God, somebody got paid to do this. But what it is, it's rumble strip research, so that they're trying to shape the rumble strips a certain way so that the sound goes in the car, not out. And it's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of technology in that. Now, around here, it doesn't matter, but can you imagine 40,000 semis a day running on those outside rumbles, and you live next door? So, okay, anyway.
All right,
Wait, we're there,
good
get a motion.
discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I can even see the speed limit portion of this is slowing it down. A couple points, I really have a problem with the Jake brake ordinance, and it is so just out of curiosity, is the state currently being sued over their Jake brake ordinance
There's
for the
something
state?
with it, and I didn't get they are.
They are, exactly.
But
So we
I
don't
haven't
even
seen
know if they're gonna be able to stand up in it, because the problem becomes, as far as that noise, what are we doing to those trucks that are gonna make that turn and head to south on 14? What is our ordinance for acceleration? You're within a decibel or two noise level on acceleration
Right.
versus your Jake brake coming in there, so you're not solving a noise problem with one of them.
Right.
You're literally just limiting a certain asset that they have. And I'll even bring up on 14, that's putting the Jake brake signs there. There are a lot of guys that run, because your Jake brake is not engaged unless you let your foot completely off the throttle. So if it's on there, it's not running, but if you have it on, when you let off, that's instantly slowing you down for something that could be a safety measure by cars that love to just come out in front of you, pile on the brakes and turn in.
Right.
So it's that much faster for you, before you get your foot from there to there, it's already slowing you down. So now you're saying everybody on 14 that's running through there is
Yep.
gonna have to not use it, and then causing an extra few seconds, or not few seconds, but the second it takes, I
Right.
mean, where every second matters. I mean,
So,
as for the discussion last week, I hate to put up a sign that we know we're not gonna enforce. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was just said, we're not gonna enforce the one on 13, so I mean, why are we gonna add more to not enforce them? I can get behind your speed limit, I get
Yep,
behind the
that's
passing
fine.
zones, but adding more signs we're not gonna enforce, I just can't.
I don't know that you have a lot of Jake brakes heading south applying their Jake brake at that corner.
No.
Now, I will tell you, right by the railroad tracks, I see guys hitting their Jake brake just before they hit the railroad tracks.
Sure.
Well, most trucks coming north out of 14 do not turn and go west.
No, I agree with you.
And even if you travel that fairly frequently with the heaves that you've got with the frost and things like that, it's like, well, 3 weeks ago it was fine, you get up close to it and all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, she's
Yeah.
heaved up a couple inches here, I need to slow down.
Okay, so the one thing about road defects, I mean, I'm hoping that someday that crossing's better. You know, we'll do something to try to shore it up, but,
Better than
if we have a bump out, if you come on 10 south of Frederick right now, that bump's heaving up on 10 by Harts there. I mean, you could potentially have the same situation there. I'm not discounting your guys' thing, and I understand what you're saying, Mike, but the ordinance, like I said, you read the ordinance. That's an attempt.
I completely disagree with the ordinance,
Well,
way, in the way it's written too.
well, there's a
I'm
bunch
just
of
amazed we
bunch
can
of
even-
ordinances I
I can't believe we
disagree
can
with
do
too.
that.
Yeah.
That's such a discriminatory manner on one segment that I don't even know
Yep.
how you get away with that.
Well,
I know it's there, but it's...
well, I know, but that's the mechanism, and that's the only way you can, yes, it's targeted at one thing. I agree with you. I felt a little justified when I actually read our ordinance again. I went, okay, well, no discrimination here, the whole thing is targeted at trucks. So,
I think you would solve a lot of problems just by putting your 45-mile speed limit a mile west of 14 for noise.
well, you guys have my recommendation, I'm not angry.
Mhm.
I'd be acting way different if I was. And you can,
Well, between you and me, I'd like to see the state put an inspection program back in to aim headlights and talk about noise, but
Yep.
that's a bigger issue.
With the speed limits, my issue is not with the trucks. I mean, I think the trucks, if we go down to 45, that's fine, but if I'm driving my little car through there, I don't think I'm really the problem going 55 down 13. I don't see a reason for a standard size vehicle to have to reduce down to 45 there. The trucks, I get that. Now, if we wanna go a mile back and have a truck speed limit specifically at 45, I can probably get behind that, 'cause I think that'll reduce the noise. But then also, kind of in regards to that, the no passing zone, if a truck comes out and they're driving, they turn west on 13 and I'm right behind them, I might need to pass them there, because if they're going 25 and they're slowly building that speed up and there's no one coming, I'm probably gonna wanna pass them there, you know, as soon as I get past the golf course or somewhere in there, wherever there's a kind of a clear passing zone. So I've kinda got an issue with the passing zone there too, when you've got all these trucks turning, going at a really slow speed,
yep.
and I'm trying to get around them there. So, a truck speed limit's something that I could consider. I just kind of have an issue with the rest of it, though.
You don't or do?
I do,
With the whole thing?
yeah.
Okay,
The whole thing except for a truck speed limit I can get behind.
I see.
The one concern, if you come, the scenario you're talking about is you're gonna have some intersections that are coming up on the right-hand side, you're gonna be pretty blind to know whether or not somebody's pulled up at that stop sign, thinks they can beat the truck, and all of a sudden you're going around them too.
Yeah, and that's where you have to use discretion, because there's certain spots where probably are fine to pass.
Well, now we're
others that
talking about
aren't.
the traveling public.
Right,
Yeah, right.
so that's where it's like, you're not gonna have a no passing zone for 100 yards here and then allow more pass, I mean, it's gotta either be one or the other.
Right.
And you either have to have no passing or allow people to use discretion, and I think with that many trucks, I'm more comfortable allowing people to use that discretion. I mean, I don't want trucks passing there,
Mhm,
and I want trucks going down to 45, but if I'm driving my little grocery getter down the road, I wanna be able to pass somebody and drive 55.
Yep.
There's no issue, no other issues.
I won't support variable speed limits, absolutely not, okay? That's a discussion for a different day that gets into a bunch of road geometry and a whole bunch of stuff like that.
One size fits all.
Yeah, that when you have two vehicles occupying that are limited at how fast they can go on the same road, and there's about 1,000 research, even the DOT research, the state's got a project going right now, so, don't get me wrong, I'm just telling you, that will be something that I don't agree with it. I don't like having, he just got done telling us about trying to get around a slow-moving piece of equipment, and now we're gonna, legislate or, ordinate that you gotta have different speed limits, so.
Well, and I only say that for two parts, noise and safety. I mean,
Yes.
If I'm driving 55 down the road through, or on the edge of Prairie when the truck's going 45, who can stop quicker? I can still stop quicker going 55, and the
Sure.
truck can going 45.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm just saying in regards to safety, you know,
Right.
to have those trucks slow down is probably appropriate. I mean, hopefully they're not driving fast enough anyway, where if I'm going 55,
Right.
I don't think it's a big issue as long as the driver is going 55, paying attention, not on their phone, you know, ready to stop if there's an issue, so.
Do we have to do everything all at one time? Can you put the 45 on 13 and just see how it works out in 6 months? Or, actually, you know, right now, your truck traffic is heaviest in September, October, November. And then look at it then. I mean, we're trying to fix everything, and I don't know if we're overkilling or if we're underkilling. But I think you start one place and see if that takes care of the problem, is just the way I look at it.
So what would you eliminate? What would you not do?
I just leave everything, and I put the 13 a mile back from 14 down to 45 mile an hour and see if you can reduce that noise.
Well, you still have my recommendation, you guys can do what you want with it. Like I said, I'm not getting, this isn't my deal. I do wanna point out, is what you're talking about, the passing zones. The passing zones are is not 'cause of trucks. It's because the people coming out won't look and go, oh, there's a semi, and behind that semi is Drew, who wants to pass him, and they're gonna back out up there, and then the guy pulls out, and that's, I mean, so the passing zones are not an attack on the trucking industry, it's people not paying attention, or people not, and that's kind of a hard one. I do that, look and see if it's a passing zone when I pull out and look, but I don't know that everybody does that. So, you know, we're trying to make the world idiot-proof, I get it sometimes, but that, I mean, the passing zones aren't there because of the trucks. I mean, it's there because of...
There's multiple approaches.
Somebody doesn't look and see there's two cars coming, not one, they pull out, and the other guy pulls out.
And you mentioned most of the traffic coming from the north on 14, they're not turning going west,
No.
they're coming through.
Right.
Well, I don't have any problem with no passing on down 13, because it is a high traffic area coming through that way.
So based on your recommendation, those three things, sounds like we're down to maybe two positives. No passing zone on 13 and
Speed limit.
speed limit on 13.
On 13,
Leave
yeah.
14 alone because those signs are ineffective. Right, Mike, Gage?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna throw the signs out, fine, I do want a 750-foot no passing zone on 14 still.
So we're down to those two minus the signs for now.
Well, that'd be three then, right?
Speed limit and no passing.
Two no passing zones we're adding.
Right. And the speed limit
changing
per
the
mile.
speed limit
Right.
per mile.
I'll move that.
All right, so we have a motion by Weiss to lower the speed limit to 45 for the last mile on 13, put in no passing zone for a mile on 13, and then extend the no passing zone 750 feet south of the intersection
On 14.
on
Yeah.
14.
Not quite a mile, I'll leave that to your discretion.
Yes, it's where Prairie would start, so it's a
Right.
little over a half mile, it's like
Okay.
3,000 feet.
Okay,
Is that clear?
yep, everybody understand the
Where does
motion?
the 750 get to going south, you think? Just for visual reference. Is it down to like the River Horse Drive? It's not that far. It's like
No,
to the
River Horse
shelter
is,
belt, the trees there on the west side?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the 750, Mike, is not
Standard.
because of something
No,
that's out
standard.
there, it's
Yep.
just what you can do without having to dance around too much.
Nope. All right, we have a motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Feldheim. Any further discussion? Everybody understand what we're voting on? No further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries on a vote of 4-1. Thank you, Dirk.
You bet.
Thank you
And
for all the input.
that isn't, like we said, that's not, we can revisit it at another time, and don't, when you get to know me better, Drew, I'm not poo-pooing your stuff, I'm direct for the sake of efficiency, so I have time to ramble on about other stuff, you know? So, but at any rate, this is definitely can be an ongoing thing, but I think let's do this and see what impact it has.
That's why we don't schedule anything after.
And go. And honestly, you know what, spring load limits, where we got trucks 40, cars 55, I struggle with that I struggle with it for two reasons. One is you could potentially have a car that can legally go 55 and a truck that can legally only go 40, right? But, I come from a different school of thought. The old school was always, the spring load limits are on, drive the truck slower so they don't beat the crap out of the road, you know? But you're also keeping that load on the road longer.
Right.
If you're going 40. So I kind of fall in, if the road's really good, you can go down to 40. It sounds back asswards, but you can go 40 because the truck isn't gonna beat the road. You know, having the weight on the road longer on a smooth road, not so bad. But if you go 40 on a really crappy road, where you're doing a lot more of this, and you're bouncing and, you know, then
And you're pounding it.
right, so that doesn't matter so
Gotta go
much.
over the top.
Yeah, that's good.
So, okay.
All right.
That was easy.
Yeah, nothing to it.
Thank you, Dirk.
You betcha.
I did everything but the original request.
Yeah, we just...
There we are.
I've seen this play before, I know how it goes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dirk.
Brings us to the end of our regular scheduled items.
Rachel?
Rachel, do you have a recommendation?
Sure do.
Oh, now why are you back again?
She wants to spend money.
Oh, of course.
And I got Mordred here listening to you and the
Yeah, I
time that
know.
went by.
You're pressures on how long it's gonna take me to get in town now, my God.
Now I see why you sent me the video. After reviewing the four proposals, I guess I would recommend that we go with the low bid, which was KEI, for a total of $115,721.64.
Move it.
Okay, I have a motion by Feldheim. Second by Denner to approve the KEI bid. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
So I'll work with Lynn on how that works as far as can that money go into the fairground improvement fund, so that if there's some left to do work on the water, then maybe we just write that check out of that fund somehow, but you tell us the best way to do it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Just
then I'll
stick around
come
for
by.
exec?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good day.
All right, we will move on then to the consent calendar.
Approval of the general meeting minutes of January 17th, 2023.
Move. Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Blaine?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claim assignment.
Move. Second.
Motion by Feldheim, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Plat.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Feldheim. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Fair contract.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Anything else to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? We have a request to go into executive session for personnel. Anything legal? Okay,
Contract.
and contracts.
Move. Or second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage, go into executive session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are... All right, we are back in session, out of executive session with no action as a result. Is there anything else to come before the Brown County Commission this morning? If not,
Move to adjourn.
motion by Feldheim, second by Denner to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.